Hello and welcome, I'm Matthias from mamoworld.com, and in this automation blocks tutorial we are going to create the following tool. Let me just run here our final result. So the tool shows you a user interface, and let's say welcome to our course, Programming Made Easy. And then you can choose here like the bright or the dark theme, and you can choose an icon file. Let me choose here our automation blocks item to use in our project. And we click OK, and now it opens an After Effects project and customizes texts and colors and inserts the icon that we've just chosen and even renders it to the render queue. So this is the icon file that we've chosen. These are the texts that we entered. We decided which colors we want to use with the theme. And it didn't just create this project, it also rendered out already our final file here and named it according to what we entered. So if you work with these kinds of projects that you have to customize every day and render every day and need a workflow to do this fast and in particular also to do it consistently, then in this course you learn everything you need to do exactly that. Okay, to create our user interface, I go here and I created already a new empty script. And now in the user interface and comments category, you find this super scary looking block here, which we use to create our user interface. I say it looks pretty scary, but it's actually super simple to use. If you run this, you can see that it shows us a dialog with all the interface elements that we have available here in automation blocks. And it's like, each of these elements corresponds to one line of this block here. So the first input is the my single line input. You can see it here. And the second one is my multi-line input, which you can see here, and so on. And there are different kinds of inputs. So there are single line inputs, multi-line inputs, int numbers, float numbers, checkboxes. You can see this. So here the number inputs look like text inputs, but they only accept numbers. So if I enter something else than numbers here, they complain. And they're also a bit clever in the sense we can put here 5 plus 6, for example, and we'll replace it by 11, which the single line inputs will not do. You've got checkboxes, you can create drop-down lists, and you can have dialog elements here where you can choose an existing file or where you can save a file. So here you can choose a file that does not exist yet. This is the difference between open file and save file inputs. And you've got one where you can select a folder. And you've got something that is just a label. And with just a label, we maybe want to begin. So our first input should be just a label. And this label should be enter template details. So it's always good to tell our user at the beginning what he or she should do. Next, we want an input for our main text. And then we want an input for our second text. And both of those should actually be single line text. So we choose here in the drop down single line. And then we want to have a drop down for the color, which we give the name main text color maybe. And here we choose, it should be a drop down. And after that, we maybe also want to pick the icon here in our, so far we've got our main title, secondary title, and then our design also has this icon here, and we want to replace this icon. So what we want to do is to give here an input where the user can choose the icon, and you should be able to choose a file here. So we choose here an open file input for this. Those last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we don't really need them. So we go here, and the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we just take them out of here. And now we've got this much smaller block. And you can add more elements if you want later, of course. Okay, let's see what this dialog looks like. If we run it, now you can see we have our main text, secondary text, main text, color as a drop-down, and our icon where we can choose our file. Okay, so now we want to populate these with default values. So if we take a look again here, this says undefined, undefined. Here we don't really have good options, so we need to fix this now. And to understand how this is working, you need to take a look here at this last drop-down in each line. And this is actually a variable where the value that the user enters for these things will be stored. And you can initialize these values to give them default values. And the first thing I would like to do is to give these variables meaningful names. So let's name this one here our text main. And this variable should be text second. And this variable should be our color main text maybe, and the icon should be, we rename this with icon file. Okay, so now you've got variables for all these elements here, text main, icon file, and so on, and we want to set those values. So we want to set our text main to, let's say, my title, and I duplicate it and set the text second to the second text, and I duplicate it a third time and set the variable color main text. And now we need to give here different options, and you do this with a vertical line with this or symbol in between. So let's just name those red or blue or black. This is this vertical line symbol here right in between. And if you run this script now, you see it shows my title. Here's the second text. So it takes those values from those variables that we have here and uses them for those inputs. And here you've got now red, blue, or black as options. And the tool is even clever enough to notice, oh, these are actually names of colors. So it shows those colors here. These are, of course, like default red, blue, and black values. So what we want to have in reality later are we want to have color hex codes here. So if we go to character and open our color picker here, these hex code values are what we actually want. I can just copy this and paste this here, and I like to put a hash symbol in front of it. And now let's take a look here actually at my text file where I prepared the second value as an alternative. We also want to have a blue value that we can put here. We paste it, and if you run the script now, the dialog updated and shows exactly these two color values. Yeah. In general, dropdowns work like this. If they see those hex values, they know it's a color. And if they see a color name, they know it's a color. This also applies to label colors, actually, by the way. If you do something entirely different, let's say here we say or third choice, run the script. Now you can see for the third choice there is no color shown. So you can really use these dropdowns for anything, not just for colors. But if you use them for colors, they can print those color boxes here right in front of the label itself. Okay, let's get rid of the third one again. And the last thing I want to explain you in today's class now is how you can now actually use the values that the user entered here. And this is also very easy, similar as you initialize the values before running the dialog. After the dialog is finished, those values, those variables contain the values that the user has chosen. So we can, for example, here in the user interface, just to show you how it's working, add a little alert message. And we alert the following text. We create here a text from multiple components and say main text is, and then we use the variable text main. And maybe let me also add a little space here. And if we run this, and I enter here other title now, okay, and we get now the message main text is other title now. Okay, so after the dialog ran, these variables contain the values. And the same is of course the case here for the color. So if we want to show here the color of the main text and say color is, and we run this and choose here the blue value, which is hashtag 67 blah blah blah, then exactly this color is shown here. Okay, that's it for this first class where we learned how to create the user interface. In the next class, we learn how to actually do something meaningful with the values that the user entered here, namely updating these texts and colors and also the logo file accordingly. I am Matthias from mamoworld.com, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next class.